Hey, gang. I am scratching my head. I see you backstage, Philip. I'll get to you in a minute, bitch. Today is about being happy because we actually did have a successful, free, and fair election yesterday and in the past couple of weeks, actually, which is something that rubs Blake Fisher the wrong way. But if you don't know by now, I had one of the guys working on one of my websites message me today. Wants to know if we want to pick up with continuing some of the developments of Mastiff.media. And like, have you seen it? It's worse than before it was even a website. So yeah, you got a lot of work to do. But I said, yeah, sorry I haven't been as accessible to work on that project. I've been a little stressed. And he actually had to ask me what is it that's so stressful? And my reply back was, dude, do you live under a rock? And I did it in a funny, we're busting each other's balls way. But seriously, here we are. 99.1 WDJY and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. That's our only terrestrial station for today. We were on 99.1, the Tantalk Network, and KSHP last night for 3 hours doing election results. And throughout the whole night, it was that there was no clear direction that anything was going until about, I would say, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Well, actually, no, later than that. 9:30, 10 o'clock. Kamala started underperforming, and Donald started overperforming, and that's when we kind of figured out things got to change. But what you don't realize is sometimes when they wait to call states in favor of one candidate or another, where they say, like, at the one point with like 90%, it's still too early and she's behind 3 points. Do you realize what happens with that remaining 10%? They've like all got to be for Kamala for her to come back. And the other swing states were just like that. So it didn't look good. And, Fox was right for calling it earlier than NBC or ABC or any of the networks, because is it a risk? Yes. But mathematically, it just, when something like that drags out, it doesn't get better for the one that's trailing. And you all know where I stand. I need to shut a curtain behind me. Give me 1 second. Be right back. I'm going to put some music on, just 20 seconds of music. And there we go. So for those of you on the radio going, why the hell does he need to shut a curtain? Well, we're on video now. You can get, this is one of the things that'll be an upgrade to yergs.com and so many other, just go to mastiff.media. .media is an ending for like .com, .net, .org, whatever. .media is a rather popular now. Yeah, nobody's here. We just started, Knucklehead. People aren't sitting here waiting for me to start talking. And yes, actually they are. They're just on the radio. Video is a new feature. And it's more than just you. See, I'm trying to be nice, but we got people like that. So you were on video now, and as such, my membership with Restream, I'm going to cut back because one of the destinations on Restream is our direct video feed, which would go to our website, which is something it's a player that our other supplier gives us. It's functional now. We could have been using it for the past 8 months, which kind of pisses me off, but the other supplier does not have the best customer service. I'll leave it at that. And as a result, I just took $100 a month bill and cut it down to 50. And I might even cut it even further, giving me, $80 a month to put into some better things that we're doing. Speaking of better things that we're doing, we had a free and fair election last night, and it's just time for everybody to lift their skirt and do better than what we did the last times. When Trump won in 16, there remained divisiveness. When Biden won from another free and fair election in 20, there remained divisiveness and no questions. The senators and congressmen that think they're leading by saying, well, there were questions here. No, there weren't. The questions, and again, same thing with this time around, were things being done by the Republican Party. So it's all over. If it wasn't totally free and fair, it was free and fair enough. And it's over. But I'm going to need something. We now have a foreign language being spoken, soon to be spoken, in the White House. That language is called Trump or MAGA or whatever. We need a translator. So we've brought someone back today out of his own generosity who joined us last night. With us is Philip Blackett, our resident Trump supporter, and smart guy. I've seen his. I haven't read them yet. I'm still learning to read, but I know he's got them. I'm waiting for the audio version. I'm waiting for the audio version. But I mean, here's somebody that's Harvard educated, author, and I don't mean like what do you got? Your camera's mirrored. I couldn't read it. What do you got there? Harvard something, but your mic is muted too. I'll make sure it's nothing on my end. No, check your sound.
Harvard Hackfest.
There we go. Welcome, Philip Blackett, our now resident Trump translator.
Hello, America. Bringing the joy this morning.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
There were things on both campaigns I would have done much differently. But
me too.
Still, well done. And I'm just glad to say, after the show today, I'm going to fix myself a drink and very ceremoniously go through a list of audio that's attached to my profile here and delete all the campaign advertisements that I pirated off of YouTube so I could do my part to keep you sons of bitches out of the White House. So, well played, sir. Well done. To the winners go the spoils.
Last night was a good night.
Yeah, for you.
For America, too, I would argue, but we can talk about that.
And that's what I will now argue, too. I spent the morning listening to Howard Stern, who had also been saying, hey, it was no sour grapes. It was a free and fair election. I wish Donald well. And really, just like I did in 16 and then 17, so do I. Yeah, I don't want to see people not being able to afford eggs when I'm scared, frankly, because under Trump, when I was still employed by the Secret Service and making six figures, and I'll give you the figure, $160,000 a year, I was spending $3,000 a month on rent in LA. And actually, the location isn't going to matter because I'm spending $3,000 a month here on a mortgage for the same size house. Actually, slightly larger house. Not up yet, but that's coming. LA was a 2-1, meaning 2 bed, 1 bath. Here is a 3-2, and to give you cost of living situation. And again, I'm going by income and expenses, not the rest of the type of resident neighborhood I'm in. A 3-2 bed and bath on a canal type neighborhood like I'm on here in Florida, in the LA equivalent, a neighborhood called Marina Del Rey, $3.2 million. That same type of house again here in Florida, but down in a much closer to everything type neighborhood like St. Pete Beach, for example, $1.8 million. I bought it for 450. I bought this for 450, and God only knows what they're going to evaluate it at once I finish the renovations caused needed to be. Bless you.
Thank you.
Good catch by Helene. But I'm saying all that because bottom line is I have a $3,000 mortgage, and it's not, but I put more into it. It's 29 and change, but that could change now that once I get these renovations done, I'm not going to have flood insurance anymore because I'm not going to have anything that floods. So $3,000 mortgage, $3,000 rent. Just across the board, all utilities and other general expenses were the same, relatively the same, except here, not only do I have a water bill, but I have a sewer bill separate from the water bill. I lived on both coasts multiple times. I've never had that before. So I've got an extra expense now. I no longer have a government take-home car, which, I mean, I never claimed it as such, honestly, but technically that's a source of income. It's a car that I use to go back and forth to work, unlike you who would use your own car. It's a car that gets maintenance done by the employer. This is another expense I don't have. And it comes with a gas card. I don't even put gas in it. Now I'm doing all those things with my minivan. So even though obviously I'm in my living room, I work from home, I still go to the grocery store, which I could do with my government car in the last couple of years. On the way home, if it was on the way home from work and you pass the grocery store, you can stop and get groceries. When I came on the job, I couldn't do that. If I would have done that, I would have gotten busted, and I would have lost my car. So I've actually got more expensive. I got a son now, although Helene has forced us to separate. He's moved in with his girlfriend when we evacuated, and the kid's getting laid, a couple times a week at 19. Where do you think he's going to live? But that was still an expense for 2 years. Point of all that being, having taken a pay cut from 160,000 to 72,000 in retirement, I was now, prior to Helene, saving money. We're at 160,000. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And so if I'm right that this was a bad decision, I'm screwed. Because I'm going to go back to living paycheck to paycheck when I'm already doing that now, having had to put expenses into my house that I haven't been reimbursed for yet from insurance or FEMA. I'm still waiting for that. I haven't received a dime, not that $750 initiation. I haven't received my advance on the insurance. None of that has come yet. And so tell me, how is this going to be a good thing? As I said, you're our Trump translator.
I speak Trumpese, even
Yeah.
though I don't have the right hand motions, and I
Yeah.
look a little
Right.
different. So, um, I mean, listen,
Does a translator, one of the ASL people that's up on stage with him, do they ever have to do anything for when he does it's going to be great?
I mean, this is about it. Like Obama did the same thing at the Democratic National Convention to some laughter, but that's a whole nother story. He might have to regret that moment. But yeah, I'm sure I don't pay attention necessarily to the sign language person on the side. I'm more, watching the man
Well,
of
it
the
gets
hour.
improved.
But I'm sure they
You
probably have
kind of nice.
translation as far as helping people with sign language. Try to understand what he's actually saying.
Um, but speaking of translation, how do you, as I was saying, I listened to Howard this morning, and the pro-Trump listeners just still had so much hate. Like, I just want to be able to buy eggs, and I stand by what I'd been saying. And when I say you, I don't mean you specifically, but folks that make this complaint in general.
Yeah,
Your inability to or to manage a budget or balance a checkbook is not Joe Biden's fault.
true.
And I just gave you my finances from Trump to Biden.
True.
If I can do it, why can't they? It's smaller numbers, sure. But if the economy is so good under Trump, then why can't they do it now when every economist in the world says it's better?
Well, I think there's a number of things coming on, Ross, for me to unpack here. So let me first start by
Yeah,
saying, listen, um,
that's right. That's why I said, I'm here 5 days a week. I think I need you.
so I think, your show Up the Middle is a perfect title because I think last night was a clear indication that we're essentially in this together. We may be voting differently, but I think for a man to get not only the electoral college, probably to the same numbers I predicted, over 300, might
I
get
got to
this,
pick that up. Keep talking. Keep
might
talking.
get all swing states. I think I said that, so I knew it was over 300. That was my prediction. Um, but also the popular vote, right? Because oftentimes, I think 2016, I think Trump won the electoral college, but he didn't win the popular vote. So people were saying, you don't truly have a mandate. You don't truly speak for all of us because you didn't get the popular vote. Well, what are we saying today? And I think what resonated with a lot of people is that if you have surveyed the country and you have over 70% of people saying we're going the wrong direction, that's not necessarily 70% of Republicans, 70% of MAGA, 70% of conservatives. It's 70% of Americans, which includes the whole spectrum, red, white, and blue, I would say. Um, People are looking for answers that the current administration is not doing a good job helping with, even to your example, as far as recovering from Hurricane Helene, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think what's going on here is essentially it's helping people understand, okay, what we had over the past 3.5 years, we struggled. We all struggled, unless you're like one of the coastal elites and celebrities that, popped up the last day of, Harris's rallies and that sort. But outside of that,
Oh,
regular,
he did the same thing.
listen, at least the ones that were on Trump's side was trying to speak and say, listen, we can have better days ahead. And I think to your point, whether it's housing, gas, eggs, and that sort, I think the American people, for the most part, spoke loudly saying, hey, we can to some degree help ourselves, but we also need help in a better economy. And if the government can be helpful for us as far as providing better setting for us to provide for our families, not necessarily handouts, right? We don't necessarily need $25,000 for home assistance in the sort as far as like down payment. Just help us better afford gas, like $2 gas and below. Help us
But it
have
is
eggs,
below $3 now again.
which is great. We're making progress. Let's see if we could drive that further down, right? Drill, baby, drill. But anyways,
But okay, I stop. We're drilling now more than what we ever had during the entire Trump administration.
so can we drill more to where we can be energy independent?
Oh, there's that word again, or that phrase.
Have we drilled to our
Yes,
full
we can now.
capacity here?
I certainly hope so because and I concur with Howard. Is I don't want to see Trump do badly. I
I
didn't
don't
want
either.
to. I don't. Well, you're a supporter,
Well,
of
but
course.
I say that more so, Ross, because it's like now the election is done with. And I know
Yes.
some people think it's like cliche that, okay, if you won, you're supposed to come up on the podium and say, I'm going to be a president for all Americans. Well, here's the bottom line. If Trump succeeds and provides a better America, I believe it's not so much just a better America just for those who voted for him. Because how do you identify, okay, I'm just going to help Philip out and not help Ross or certain other people that didn't vote for me? No, I'm actually putting things in place that should be a tide right raising all boats, hopefully, particularly those that have been really impacted. And so I wanted to succeed because one of the things that he said that I agree with, you know, success is a very easy way to get support from across the board. People love being on a winning team. And if America can be a winning team that many of us do better now going forward the next 4 years than we had the past 4 years, that's a great way to get support, get our nation closer together, but more importantly, help provide a better place for us to provide for ourselves, our families, even if we've gone through some hardships over the past 3.5 years or so.
Yeah. So I I personally still have the I don't see the appeal, but that's irrelevant now. That's gone because plenty of people do see the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to say, okay, I'm wrong. I'm the asshole. All
You're
right.
not the asshole, Ross.
But I mean,
But
my lingo.
here's an important thing though. If you remember last time we talked, and I had to go, but I needed to get this question in just to get your viewpoint. I don't know if you remember me asking you this, but I asked to say, okay, riddle me this.
Hmm?
If Kamala Harris loses, is this the last we hear of her?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right? And I remember your response, and it was to the tune of, we shouldn't have had her anyway. We could
yeah,
have had a better person.
100%.
So I think that while the Democrats play blame game today and over the next few months about why things didn't work out the way they did, why it wasn't a Harris landslide and sort, I think to your point, it is going to be helpful to figure out, okay, what do we do from now on for the next 2 to 4 years? What is the lessons learned? Why didn't Harris appeal to certain people or demographics? Why didn't her message or lack thereof didn't really resonate with people to the degree that this map you're showing here isn't more blue? And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned here for sure.
Sorry, excuse me. Um, so yeah, speaking of, here is your selection as we saved it from last Friday's show. Um, you had a sweep of the South
Mm-hmm.
and a sweep of the Great Lakes. When I say Great
Red
Lakes, I
Wall.
mean three.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and you totaled it out at 312, 226. What was the final? Because I thought he only had like 287 or something.
So
Did you?
they called it around 2:30 or 3 o'clock this morning once he crossed 277 via Fox. So once
Okay.
he got Wisconsin, because he got Pennsylvania, and I think it was at
Yeah.
267. Once he got the 10 from Wisconsin, once they called it, that's when they called him being president.
Yeah.
Now, there's still votes coming in from the remaining background states. It looks like he does have a good chance of taking on the blue wall, making it red, and being above 300. So I'm not sure if we're going to get exactly 312 to my
Yeah.
prediction,
Yeah.
but I think we'll get pretty close.
Well, this is what I wanted either way. I never thought either side was going to have a landslide. I didn't think
Hmm.
Kamala was going to do it. Um, I thought she was going to do better than 226. But I'm glad she didn't, because now this stop the steal bullshit is
Yeah.
over.
Because I'll be honest with you, Ross, I got nervous. I was up all the way until Trump spoke. And the
So it's
biggest concern I was having was, are we going to have something similar to 2020? It's like, oh, okay, everyone, we can't call it. Everyone go to sleep. We'll pick up count in the morning. And all of a sudden, potential shenanigans could happen while we're asleep.
yeah,
And for it to be called, you know, yes, 3 o'clock in the morning, but yet and still to be called, have some sort of closure.
yeah,
I think to your
100%.
point about a free and fair election, it very much calmed a lot of people's fears that if we can get to the point, I hope we can going forward, honestly, can we get to the point where we can actually call elections within 24 hours of the actual election taking place?
Blake was on after you. Actually, was on with you, and then after you left to tuck the kids in,
Yep.
Blake and I were talking about technology and procedures. One, what and what got us started about it was we were talking about the various states that had referendums or amendments about being American citizens to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a federal election. You have to be an American citizen to vote.
Right. I agree.
Why are we creating laws like that already have laws like that? And it got us into, and he pointed out, Florida is finished. They're done. And they're one of the only states, Tennessee and Kentucky might be also,
So
and
done as far as what?
counting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They were able to call. They might have, like, this number, but they knew that the number that was still outstanding was not going to affect anything.
Yeah. Florida was like 99% by the time I got on here for sure. And they were
And
on here 99% before, you know.
and they're one of the few states in two time zones.
Yep.
And we still have other states, going from that same time zone.
Yep.
New York, okay, because they're later, they close at 9. But what took Pennsylvania so long?
Yep. I mean,
What took Michigan and Wisconsin so long? Wisconsin,
this comes back to what we talked about, I think, yesterday. Like the question I have in my head is like, yes, I get it. States, right? States do their own thing and that sort. States have their own elections, their own referendums. I get it. But when you have 50 states have their elections, of which at least one or two offices is a nationally shared office, my thought would be it would behoove us to have the same process for that election so that we can have uniformity on how we go
yes,
about doing the voting and counting it in the same method to get a 99% voters in like Florida did at the time they did it. Because it's ridiculous. It's like it's 2024. Did we not learn from 2020? We have counties like
and 2000,
yep.
and, yeah,
Like we have counties in places like Arizona that are still counting that like 60%, or Nevada saying, oh, we don't count at all until the very last person votes and that sort. Like, I get it if it's a state only election, do your thing, go with your system, have at it. God bless you.
yeah,
But if you have a national election with an office or two that is nationally shared, it's on the ballot for every state. then my thought would be, hey, whether President Trump or somebody along those lines say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. You're going to have this system and go about it this way for this election, and this is how you're going to count them, and you're obligated to have them reported by this timeline. Because what we don't want people doing is fearing that when they go to sleep, whether or not people are going to do the right thing while they're asleep, or that they can have trust that, to your point, they can feel confident that their elections were done free and fair, that they can trust whatever the result is and just move on.
So I'm gonna push back on one of the things you just said.
Okay.
Not, and it's an entirety, but at least to allow for a caveat. And I think it was it Milwaukee that had the issue with the door on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Where they started 30,000 over.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that, they were not going to make any same day deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But they got in front of it and said,
Right.
hey, we have this issue. Clearly put that out on some national level to tell everybody, hey, we have this issue and we're dealing with it. We're not going to make that deadline. But we have people from both sides observing, correcting, and making sure this goes. And they were done before most other people anyway. That issue, that story came out that the issue, the 30,000 votes were recounted by midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree. I hear what you're saying with a deadline of some sort, whatever that is. But there's got to be the wiggle room for when life happens.
Oh, of course. So it's almost to the point where it's just like something should be organized in a sense of saying, hey, we're going to take a look at the 2024 elections starting next year and come up with some sort of way we go about this in preparation for 2026 and 2028 and ongoing. Like we got to figure out something.
Yeah, you don't want a 2000 where Florida was still counting votes.
Right.
And the Supreme Court said, okay, you're done now. And there's this whole handful of votes over here that could have helped Al Gore.
Yep. I agree.
So, yeah.
You know my thing, Ross, is like, hey, whatever we decide, just keep it consistent on both sides.
Yeah. And that's why Blake and I got into this argument again, too. Primaries versus caucuses and other methods of selecting your candidate. If that's a federal election, why is that not uniform also?
Mm-hmm.
You know, caucuses, people are saying that the Electoral College is outdated. No, caucuses are outdated because a caucus is how you voted before there was any way to count votes.
Mm-hmm.
The original caucus was everybody's in a room. All right, everybody for Philip Blackett, go over to that corner over there. And everybody for Blake Fisher, go to that corner over there. And Matt Deemer, come up here. And then we evaluate. All right, well, Matt Deemer's going to lose another election. So you people in Matt Deemer's corner, figure it out. Pick one of the other two. We'll meet back in an hour.
Did we find out how Matt did last night?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's an independent whose name you'll recognize. Dennis Kucinich.
Wow.
Remember him?
Yeah.
He's in the same district. And he's been a flaming liberal his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that every Kucinich vote would have gone to Matt,
but some of them did.
A majority of them would have. And so Kucinich played a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I'm going to paraphrase this. It was like 51% for Max Miller. And then Matt's was 50% minus 11. And there's point something for everybody, but rounding up or down and whatever. Dennis Kucinich, Dennis Kucinich had 11% of the vote. If he's not in the race, and most of that goes to Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Miller may have still won it, probably would have, because it's a very blue, or excuse me, it's a very red district in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But we're a lot closer. And it would have given the Democratic Party better reason to support Matt in the future
Mm-hmm.
than to dump money into Colin Allred, who turned out to not be near as close as what we all thought he was going to be,
Thankfully, not. Yeah.
or Debbie Powell,
Mm-hmm.
who also was not near as close as what we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I think she lost by at least 1 million.
Yeah, popular vote. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it was like 5 or 6 points,
Mm-hmm.
and Allred I think was almost 9 points or more.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really wasn't close.
Mm-mm. But you know what was close? Virginia.
Yeah, you mean for
Trump. I could have been wrong on that one. I'm looking at the projection as I had Virginia blue, but at a certain point before I left, I said, "Hey, pay
it,
attention to Virginia.
it
This
was
one could be
it
an
was
upsetter."
yeah, it was red most of the night.
Yep.
You're right about that. It was, and so was Minnesota, which was a head
Yeah.
scratcher. And the reason for that was there's two cities,
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis,
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
and another one, and I'm
Was it
brain.
Rochester? Maybe.
No, there's something down in the south. Let me see something. Minnesota cities. Let me see what I can pull up here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can ask Tim
Um,
Walz too. I mean, he
Duluth.
got some time now.
Yeah, yeah. He can come on the show. Duluth
Oh, okay.
was the third city, really. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. And that's where, as in so many cases, and that's why it took so long, was you're getting all these small counties reporting almost immediately because they don't
Yep.
have anybody.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this. Yep, the rural ones.
And so it just took so much longer for that to come back. And finally, those three cities, once they got their act together, they just, like I said, there's more there. And then he took it, but even so, I don't think it was really by as much as what you would expect a quote unquote popular governor,
Mm-hmm.
popular candidate at all, and for president or vice president to carry their own state. Mike Pence helped them win Indiana rather aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
Trump defeated DeSantis in Florida
Mm-hmm.
rather aggressively,
Mm-hmm.
rather handedly. And you need to be able to do that. Like the one I think of every year, every campaign, back in 2004, John Edwards and John Kerry
Oh,
did not
buddy.
win South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And so, yeah. And I thought it was funny. I don't know if you were up to see this part or because Blake was going to lay down and then get up later to see where it was. I'm like, don't do that, dude. You're not going to be able to go back to sleep. That's exactly what Howard was. Howard's been up since 1 o'clock this morning.
No, I went to sleep probably around 3:30.
Yeah.
After Trump did his speech, and then the Fox News people signed off, transitioned to the next panel. I watched a little bit of the tears cried on CNN, and then I was like, yeah, I need to go to sleep.
I've seen that in real time before.
Which one?
The tear people crying
Mm-hmm.
at the loss of their candidate.
Yep.
And I know where that comes from. I know why that happens. For at least a year, in Trump's case, apparently this time around, 2, I think, realistically, four since when he lost in 2020.
Yeah.
He started up right away again on some level. But these people, especially down authority, not down ballot, not down ticket, but down the local people that are working at the sites
Yeah.
in their community and doing the door knocking and the telephone calls, etc. They are so entrenched in their candidate and their talking points and their ideology. I mean, like me to an extent. I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell happened? I still, like I said, I still don't get the appeal. That's over. It's irrelevant now. But I think that over the past year,
Mm-hmm.
I took plenty of steps back and said, okay, what is it? Well, the economy was better. No, it wasn't. He was handed a good economy from the Biden or the Obama administration, and there were certain things that happened during the course of those 4 years where, yeah, I'm sure he'd like to change at minimum.
Can I put something on the table to consider
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
I think oftentimes Republicans this past election they made fun of Kamala for like word salad, right? And the word of the day, right? The word of the day last night, from what I saw as far as reaction that I think could play a role here, it's actually two words. It's common sense. They
And
kept
that's what I'm not seeing, but go ahead.
what they kept saying was, look, we are going to be Republican Party is going to be the party of common sense. We're going to have common sense policies that people should be able to agree on, whether it's having a better economy, lower gas prices, lower inflation, safer borders, no guys in women's sports. I wouldn't be surprised if they take that word and run with it, where when people start to do the autopsy of this election, people often say, okay, is this a common sense versus progressivism or a common sense versus wokeism? That people are starting to feel like maybe the Democrats did go too far to the left. Like that's what did it for me in 2016. Like I
Yeah.
saw it back then, but now it's like much further beyond that. And I think that what people are starting to think to themselves is, okay, what really matters to me on a day-to-day basis? And are those matters being addressed sufficiently by the current administration? And do I feel confident that the person that is up for a continuation of that is that person going to be able to do it, even though I'm not really getting clarity on what she's saying as far as what she really stands for and what she doesn't, and what's
See,
going to be different than before.
yeah, that whole I'm not getting clarity thing. I that was always a head scratcher for me
Mm-hmm.
because ever since she said we're not going back. She mentioned all kinds of negative things about the Trump administration that we're not going to go back to. She said things about, if you remember from the debate with Biden,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, other than doing it while he was sick, one of the things he was critiqued for was putting out too many statistics
Mm-hmm.
that got too far into the weeds.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to remember.
And now she speaks in more general terms.
Mm-hmm.
That's also bad. But
Well,
okay, you won.
I think on that one is we didn't get as many specifics. Like a lot of people were saying, in her defense, she only had about 100 days to do this campaign. Well, listen, we can't turn back time here.
Right.
You got what you got. So make the most out of it.
Are you on the group chat on Facebook for Up the Middle?
I believe so. If not, we could definitely check afterwards just to make sure I'm still
Yeah,
on
we
it.
were
I don't
talking
know.
about that this morning.
Yeah,
Is
I might have gotten booted then.
oh no, no,
I might be homeless like Blake now.
no, not at all. And there's somebody else on Yerg's radio who has a show who's a Trump supporter. And yeah, that's not how I roll. You disagree with me, you disagree with me. You're going to do it professionally, like you've been, like Blake has.
Mm-hmm.
And now Matt has even said he's got a lot more time on his hands. He's going to pick fights with me too. Uh, but you do it professionally. That's one thing. You just want to get into the anger porn and rage. That's not what we do here. Um,
No, because
but
that's how we have issues, right? Like that's
yeah,
how we have assassination attempts. That's how we have
yeah.
lawfare. That's how we have stuff where it's just like even now it's just like we can't move on to, like you
And
said, a
there's
free or fair election, like you said, Ross. Where I have friends now that are saying, nope, it's because America is racist still. America is sexist
I
still.
well,
And
yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
how are we going to move on past this? You know?
Before, but we got 10 minutes left, and we do need to move on.
Sure.
Not the show, but I mean in life. But why, if you're not a, and I said this about the wall. I think I made you get a good giggle out of it yesterday or last week when I said
Yeah.
it then. He's building this wall that is still not built.
Mm-hmm.
He's making Mexico pay for it, which is not 1 peso,
Mm-hmm.
not even a penny, but not even a peso, which is like 1,000 pennies
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the number is. 458 miles of a wall that covers a 1,954-mile border,
Mm-hmm.
and it fell down. And they say it's not racist when it's only on Mexico. Well, there's a 5,500 and some odd mile border to the north with Canada
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have a single brick on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see a lot of people getting arrested on suspicion of being Canadian.
That's true.
So there's got to be some. But anyway, that's old story now. Anyway,
It's not, because it's like if you're running off of immigration being a key issue,
well,
and part of your
no,
platform is saying mass
now
deportation,
on his to-do list, yeah,
right on your to-do list, if you're going to say that's what you're going to do, and now we're saying, okay, you got the office, now do it, then the question becomes, okay, where's the problem coming from? Okay, like if it's from the southern border, if it's from these different countries and that sort, let us know that. And how are you going to stop that? How, like, you got the office now, Trump. Okay, the wall, you got the Senate, you potentially are going to have the House. It's going to be a much different setting than 8 years ago. And
right.
so, to your point, it's going to be more so like what he was
But
trying
he
to say
can't
last
vote
night,
for a while.
like, are you going to do what you said you were going to do? You
Yeah,
got
he
what you
didn't vote
needed.
for a while 8 years ago too, because I know that because it was a Facebook meme. Uh, one of the one of the many pictures of Barack and Hillary sitting there. Uh, they're laughing about something, and Barack is laughing so hard he's sitting in a chair and he's bent over facing the floor, and Hillary's holding like a Starbucks coffee or something,
Mm-hmm.
and she's laughing and she's sitting back, trying to balance herself. And the caption reads, "And Mr. Art of the Deal couldn't repeal Obamacare with control of both houses of Congress."
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other Trump stories that they've used that photo for, and created a. I've got a collection of just them. But
You're not going to delete those along with the political advertising from before?
I've got a folder in my on my phone and another one in my computer here. The phone is Apple. The PC is a PC, and so it's I gotta text them to myself through Facebook Messenger because it's the only thing that's on both where I can quickly share something. I can use Dropbox, but that's already full, and I'm losing files as a result of it. So, um, but yeah, there's folders on both, and one is political slash satire.
Okay.
Well, why is that not? First of all, why is that not two folders?
That's a good question.
Political, intelligent stuff like what you see on the screen, an intelligent assessment of how we think the electoral college might go,
Yeah, we might need to frame this.
and satire. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that satire is political, or me just being a smartass, or whatever. But we are so engulfed in trying to win an argument
Yeah.
that your argument is a Facebook meme, and Trumpers did it. The MAGA crowd did it very well too.
Oh yeah, it's on both sides for sure.
Um,
I
yeah,
think the key is how do we bridge the gap and move forward, because I think that's just like, listen, we got free and fair election.
yeah,
Not everyone's team won. We don't give out participation trophies.
right.
Somebody won, somebody lost. Life still goes on. We're not booting all the people that were on the losing team. We got to work with those
But
people.
do you think who's he going to get to be in his cabinet?
That
40
is,
out of 45 previous cabinet members. And by the way, there's only 18 positions.
oh, okay.
So he's had almost three secretaries or cabinet members per position.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was, he said it's okay. He's okay with not having his secretaries confirmed. And he's done that.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of his last term, or the last, his last term, his first administration, the only secretary in his cabinet that was still confirmed was Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin.
And he could
Everybody
still
else,
work without being confirmed.
yeah, he didn't have a confirmed Secretary of Defense. He didn't have a confirmed secretary. Chad Wolf was the acting Secretary of Homeland Security. He's
Mm-hmm.
my age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, JD Vance is only 40, so
Right.
God love him. But
Yeah.
and I don't care about age; I care about ability.
Oh, me too.
The point being, the only Senate confirmed secretary at the end of the Trump administration was Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, and he was there all 4 years. He's the only one that was there all 4 years. Everybody else was acting, and he's okay with that. And now we're going to have a Senate majority who's happy to be his bitch too. They're not going to step up and say, "Hey, we have a say in this matter too."
Well, and I think part of that challenge too, Ross, is that one, you're on the winning team. The election is going to put things in perspective where if you won the electoral college and the popular vote, that argument that Trump could have to anybody coming against him, that's pretty formidable. Along with the fact that there are some senators that he could argue to say, hey, listen, if it wasn't for me, you might not be in that seat.
Yeah.
So let's get this stuff done so we all look good instead of in 4 to 6 years
You're
from
saying
now.
you're saying the senators are saying that to him, or vice versa?
No, I would say vice versa. I would say
Okay.
Trump is, I could say the coattails for some of those senators. They might not be in those positions coming into the Senate if it wasn't for Trump doing as well as he did.
Yeah.
So it might be the sense that we might want to tone down the infighting and see how much stuff we can get done while we have the capacity and the leeway to do so that we all look good. Because there's a potential here that's opened up from this election, Ross, that the Republican Party is changing. It's becoming much more broader, much more inclusive, much more about common sense, they call it. And yes, Trump may be the head of it, but it is also an opportunity that these guys and girls can have a say on how far this can go. And a good way to not be a part of that is to come against the head honcho himself.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. 11:57. We're going to be cut off in another 2.5, almost 2 minutes. Philip, thanks for joining again, man. And we'll definitely, I've been saying we need to get you on here regularly, whether it's with your own on your Radio or spot here at least one of the 5 days a week.
I think that'd be great. Like I said to you before, I have a feeling now America might be more open to what a black male MAGA conservative has to say, at least for the next 2 to 4 years.
I got nothing. I can't argue with you.
So I'm definitely open to it. We'll definitely do some more of these for sure.
I still got questions, but hey,
we'll have episodes
this time.
I'm all for it.
Time. So, all right, man. Thanks for joining. I'll maybe come back Friday when the other guys are here, or again, but sooner rather than later.
Yep.
You're definitely an excellent insight. Thanks for having us. Or thanks for joining today.
Appreciate it, sir. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. See you again. Congrats again.
Thank you.
All right, gang. That is going to start wrapping things up for. We got where are we at? 11:59. So we don't have to worry about calling anymore because by the time you dial, I'm going to be drinking. But yeah, so see you again tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Thursday. Mars and I will be back for Psycho and the Psychic. And then Friday, back to a 2-hour show. The guys will be in, and we'll be talking about what happened and what we can all do to move forward. You've been running with the big dogs. Some of us are going to go sit on the porch, but we've all been up the middle. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Please do not get me started. It's so unfair. Now I'm getting emotional. I'm a little verklempt. Relax, darling. We're all mishpucha. All right. Well, that's all the time we have this week. My name is Linda Richmond.
And my name is Liz. Of course, this is my mother. Barbara, we love you. Hello, gorgeous. The movie was like butter.
Like butter.
Like a big stick of butter.
Mama! Oi.
All this talk about food, I'm getting hungry, girls.
She is like butter. Oh, I can die now. I can die. Barbara, you're beautiful. That's all the time we have. I have to go and die now.
You've changed. You know that?
Yes, I suppose I have. How about this? Peace, love, dope.
Listens for 18 minutes. The average fan listens for, are you ready for this? An hour and 20 minutes.
How can that be?
Answer most commonly given, I want to see what he'll say next.
All right, okay, fine. But what about the people who hate Yergs?
Good point. The average skater listens for 2.5 hours a day.
Look, but if they hate him, why do they listen?
Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next.